Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. For those of us for whom it is still morning, is that correct? Hello from Montreal. Good morning from Mrs. Tyree. Hello again, loving nature. Tammy from Scottsdale. Welcome, Boodlums. All these familiar names. Sandra. We have all these regulars. Hi, Jen. Hello from you and your mom, Amy. Welcome. It is still morning here for those of us in California and the West Coast. From York. Oh, fantastic. We were just in New York a couple years ago, Christina, in Ireland. We were just in Ireland last year. Atlanta. I'm on my way to Atlanta coming up in November. Miami. I was, in Miami many years ago. Hello from California. That's where I am now. And for Vermont, Pennsylvania, I love it, I love it, I love it. Hi, David and Chio. Hello from Squirrel Country in New Hampshire. Winchester, UK. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Michigan, North Carolina, LA. Wonderful. Well, I'm here, and I'm going to make this a quick one. I've got my blueberry smoothie, which I'm almost finished drinking, and we're going on a very long walk, 7-8 mile walk. I have no idea where we're going. My husband and I planned surprises for each other, and so he's got a surprise planned for me. I don't know where we're going or what we're doing, but I have to be ready to go in a half hour. So I'm going to make this a nice, quick, succinct episode. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. My name is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau from joyfulvegan.com. And if you'd like others to join us, you can swipe left to right on your iPhone and swipe up on your Android to share right away so that people can join us in today's broadcast. And of course, for those who are sending hearts, thank you. I've told everybody that the hearts are really helpful for me. So the more hearts I see, the more I know that what I'm saying resonates and that you can hear me, that it makes sense, all of those things. And of course, hearts are also used by Periscope as a ranking system. So I'm really grateful for all of your hearts. Brendan says my mom won't let me get a haircut or dye it wet. Okay, let's stay on topic here. So. So welcome. Today I wanted to talk about just a couple things that, we can do a million episodes on this, but there's so much to say about engaging socially with people, just in general, and specifically if you're vegan and you hear a lot of different things from non-vegans. Of course, we've heard kind of lots of really interesting things from people. I'll speak for myself. I've heard lots of interesting things from people, and I also think that when people ask questions to vegans, that they're genuinely interested. I don't always think that every time someone asks a silly or what seems like a silly question to a vegan, it's because they're just trying to be passive-aggressive or annoying. I think sometimes they really don't know what to say, and people don't like not feeling like they, I'm not very articulate today. People don't like feeling they can't contribute to a conversation. So if you say something to someone that's unfamiliar to them, a topic or a subject that's unfamiliar to them, sometimes people just say things because they don't know what else to say. So that's one of the things I would say, first of all, is kind of, when we hear people making comments that can be really silly and sometimes surprising and jarring, and sometimes just absolutely ridiculous, and sometimes mean. I mean, we have a number of scenarios, obviously. And then I think the first thing I would say is just to cut people some slack and really understand maybe where they're coming from. And the second thing I would say is having a sense of humor. So when someone says something like, I don't know, wouldn't we be overrun with animals if we stopped eating them? I'm not saying that we laugh at people. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying we have a sense of humor and really just kind of lighten up around some of the comments we get. So, thank them for their concern and move on. So those are the first things I would say. Having a sense of humor, really understanding where the other person's coming from. Sometimes we can get passive-aggressive comments from people, and I think it's really important to know where we end and another person begins, and not taking personally every time someone makes a joke, even if it's a stupid joke, even if it's an offensive joke. There are different ways to handle those different scenarios, and I do think just also understanding that it has nothing to do with me when someone makes a comment like that is also really helpful. I mean, it's not unlike the situation where people who are trying to get your goat, so to speak, love goats, if you let them know what they're saying gets to you, they're going to keep doing it. So I think not letting people get your goat is really important. Sometimes Terry says it's hard to put yourself in their shoes. Helps to remember I wasn't always vegan. Absolutely, Terry, and that's one of the things I say all the time is we absolutely have to remember that we were once unaware, that we probably said some stupid things too. We may not think we did, we may not remember that we did, but I bet we said some things that were uninformed. Maybe not stupid isn't the word, but maybe just uninformed or ignorant or uneducated. I mean, we just didn't know. And so I'm sure we said things too. So I think it's so important to remember where we came from and that we too were once unaware. And so really remembering that, I think, really helps keep us humble. And I think it makes it a lot easier to then understand where someone else is coming from when they make a comment like that. Does that make sense? I'm going to take a cup of tea. Uninformed sounds less mean. Of course it does. Yeah. I mean, I'm saying stupid because sometimes people do say things that are really meant to be stupid and they kind of know it. So, but I think uninformed is a much better way to put it, because I do think lots of times when people are saying something that doesn't, that's so outside of the realm of reality that it really is because they're uninformed. And I think that question of, if we stopped eating animals, wouldn't we be overrun? I think people ask questions without really thinking about them as well. So I think, given the opportunity to think about the question they're asking, I think they might come up with a different question, or they might come up with the answer themselves. So one of the things that I really recommend we do when having conversations with people is really put the question back on them. And I don't mean that in an aggressive way, but I mean it in the way of saying, well, what do you think? Like, what do you think? And you can say it playfully, you could say it seriously, which like, well, what do you think? Do you really think that we're going to be overrun with chickens if we stopped eating them? Like, what do you think? And they might come back with, well, I guess if we stopped breeding them, we wouldn't have as many. Yes, that's right. And then we can have a conversation about what it means to actually create breed all of these animals. The reason we have so many of them, and of course they're all confined in warehouses and on factories, we can have a dialogue. But do you know what I mean? We can actually ask it back to the person who's asking. So I didn't see some of your comments there because I was talking. I've always been vegan since a child. I don't know better. Okay, well, I mean, we don't have to, even if you've always been vegan, that doesn't mean we can't still be humble and put ourselves in other people's shoes. Of course, that's what it means to be empathetic, is to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and understand where they're coming from. So one way to do that is to remember our stories. But another way to do that is to just be empathetic and really try and look at something from someone else's point of view. That's also what it means to be mature. That's what it means to be an adult, is that you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So does that make sense? Yeah, so even if you grew up vegan, and we're going to have more and more people who grew up vegan, which is fantastic. We're going to have more and more people who have been vegan since birth. That doesn't mean you still can't be humble. Find common ground and start the conversation from there. Absolutely, Tammy. I'm vegan and I feel a sense of superiority to other people. I can't help it. That's really honest of you, and I really, really, really appreciate that. One of the things I talk about is that I don't really have a call to be superior to anybody, because I did once eat animals, because there are plenty of things that I don't know about now that I'm probably contributing to. And once I know better, I do better. And so for me, it's really a matter of being, practicing humility. Maybe there's something you can meditate on in terms of understanding that not everybody has the same ability to kind of critically think about these issues, or they haven't been really. I think the big part of it, and the truth is that people haven't had access to this information. I know it seems really silly because you want to say, well, duh. I mean, the animals are obviously there on your plate. They obviously were once living animals and they were killed to get on your plate. But still, we're in a culture where all of that's kept from us. And so we're not really encouraged to think about those things. So trying to remain humble in terms of understanding that people aren't I don't think walking around trying to figure out how they can contribute to as much cruelty as possible. I think they're unaware. And when we have that perspective of people, that perception of people, I think it really makes a difference in terms of being humble. And I also don't feel that we have any call to be superior to anybody. I don't feel better than anybody else. And some of you have heard me say I don't think I'm better than anybody else, but I do know that I'm better than I used to be. And that's all I can focus on is me, not anybody else. Humility attracts others. Absolutely it does. Dan says, I lecture people outside the Burger King and point out their obesity. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's, I think that's neither compassionate nor effective. So whether you want to be effective or compassionate, I don't think it's either one of those. So does that make sense to everybody? Finding common ground, being humble. I bring treats in, says Jen, for my coworkers. They love all the vegan goodies. Of course, food is a wonderful way to engage people and to get them to ask questions that put us on common ground, because we all love to eat and we all love to enjoy. Thanks, Levy. So yeah, you agree. I mean, who's not going to agree? Who's going to say, no, we should be arrogant? So I'm glad. One of the things I also say to people is when they're asking is I actually ask the question, are you serious? Because sometimes when you just do that, it's kind of like asking the question back on them and saying, like, really, like, what do you think? Are you serious actually can do many things. Asking someone if they're serious, on one hand, is saying, do you really want me to answer that question? Like, are you really serious? And I've had people go, no, I'm not serious. You don't have to answer that question. I know the answer. So putting it back on them like that, it can be really playful and can be really helpful. And I've seen it go really well. And then also when you say, are you serious? They might say, I am, but I don't know if I want the answer. Yeah. Yeah, Levy. Sometimes we just get questions from people and I might just look at them like, and there doesn't need to be any more than that for someone to go, you've heard that before. Or I can say something like, yeah, I've never heard that before. And, be playful with people. I think it's really important to be playful with people. One of the things I always talk about is that I'm not looking to be right in these conversations. I'm looking to have a dialogue. And ultimately, I think that's what's going to make us more effective in having conversations with people just in general as fellow human beings, but also as advocates for compassion, is actually the question is, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? And the answer for me is always, I want to be effective. Doesn't mean I'm not tempted to want to be right. I have an ego, please. I absolutely have an ego, but in the end, I really want to be effective rather than right. Does that make sense? So it's a question we can all ask ourselves when we're having these conversations with people. Thank you, Jen. The sun's starting to move and it's getting lower and it's getting harder to read your... How do we respond to the fact that my eating animals changes environmental impact of the cows? Can you rephrase that? So I ask it as a question so I can see exactly what you mean. I want to make sure I understand. I have to do my nails because now that nail polish is chipping off, I'm very embarrassed. I don't want you to see my nails. I need to do the WWCPGD thing more. What would Colleen do? Yeah, you don't even have to ask, right? Just, how do I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do I want to engage with this person? Do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? Really, really great questions to ask. If you're just joining us, thanks everybody for joining. My name's Colleen Patrick-Goudreau from Joyful Vegan. Let me know if you're new here. I really want to welcome you if you're new and say hi to you. Just type in new if you've never joined me for a Periscope before. New. Hello. Allosaurus. Is that Karen or Carlin? Jen, new. Sibur, new. Lots of newbies. I love it. I love it. I love it. Tempa. The sun is getting brighter, so it's harder to read. Your names. Hi, Mr. Dwan. In what tone do you say, are you serious, says Sam? People can get really defensive by tone. Absolutely. And tone is everything. And I absolutely do use my sense of humor a lot. Use your own personality. So sometimes if someone asks a question that might be really silly to me, I might say, like, really, are you serious? Like, are you serious? So it depends on who the person is, what kind of relationship I have with them, what kind of mood I'm in. But tone is really important. So saying something like, really, are you serious? Can be really, really playful. Yeah, there's lots more today. I think it's helpful when it's on a Sunday. I think this is a topic that resonates with a lot of people. So I'm just really thrilled to see the crowd here today. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so does that help? So the tone is really important. Sometimes the tone can be like, are you serious? Because I really do want to answer the question, but I want to make sure that you really want the answer. So you can also do it in a more serious tone, like, are you serious? Because I'll answer that question if you're really serious. And really make sure that they're not just asking it just as a throwaway line, like, I eat animals because the Bible told me so. Like, okay, do you want to have a conversation? Or are you just saying that? Like, do you really believe that? Are you really serious? So there's different ways to respond depending on the question and on your relationship. Does that help? Does that make sense? Does that help? Let's see. Yes, thank you. I've definitely learned humor is key. Absolutely, absolutely, Sam. Humor is everything. And, I really encourage people not necessarily just to do what I do, but to do what's comfortable for you in your own personality. Tammy says, I get the what would you do if you were stranded on an island? Yeah, and my answer to that is when I'm stranded on an island, I'll let you know. But that's not the scenario most of us are in. Most of us can make decisions, informed decisions and find lots of options. But when I'm stranded on an island, I'll let you know. I'm super interested in going vegan, says ex-wife, in any good resources for info concerned about protein. Okay, so those of you who are new and you are interested, you're just curious, you want to transition, check out the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. It is the ultimate guide for guiding you to transitioning to becoming vegan. Even if you're just curious and you want to know the answers to all those questions that people have about it, go to Amazon, go to my website, Joyful Vegan, and get the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. Of course, I cover all the single nutrients that we're obsessed with: protein, calcium, iron, vitamin B12, etc. I talk about the social aspects, I talk about the food, I talk about shopping, I talk about making the time to cook, I talk about eating healthfully, affordably, I talk about holidays, etc. So check out 30-Day Vegan Challenge. Does that help? Elben, I joke that if we're on the island together, I'd eat the person who asked. I love that. Absolutely. That's really fun. Do I believe humans are carnivores by nature and vegan by choice, or vice versa? Humans are, when you look at, when you compare human physiology to carnivorous animals and herbivorous animals, we resemble herbivorous animals way more. Doesn't mean we're not capable of consuming other animals, but we're not doing a very good job of it, both in terms of not being aligned with our own ethics. Lions don't have a problem killing, there are no ethical quandaries for a lion who's killing an animal for consumption. So we're not doing very well from an ethical perspective, and we're also not doing very well from a health perspective. Lions don't get heart disease, we do. So absolutely we resemble herbivores a lot more in terms of physiology, and we have enough evidence at this point to stop asking this question and know that we thrive on a plant-based diet and we don't do well on an animal-based diet. So I hope that helps. And I do have lots of podcast episodes on that. I've been doing a podcast for 10 years, so you can find it at Food for Thought. And you can also go to YouTube and find Joyful Vegan. And I have an episode, a vegan point of view episode on that as well. Meat was a luxury in our human history. We were gatherers for the majority of our days, of course. I mean, absolutely. The point is to keep moving forward and to not keep looking back. I think we rely too much on what we used to do rather than looking forward in terms of what we're capable of doing now. And we have so much potential to do better than we're doing now. And I think that's way more important than looking back on what we used to do. In the argument, everyone wants to be a lion, and right, exactly. We often compare ourselves to the carnivorous lion as opposed to the herbivorous elephant. We look at different things and go, well, I don't know, the lions do that. Well, what about what the elephants do? Like when people say, well, animals eat other animals, well, which animals? There are more herbivorous animals in the world than there are carnivorous ones. Why do we compare ourselves to the carnivorous lion instead of to the herbivorous elephant? Like, why? Because it's convenient, because we want to be able to justify what we're doing and feel good about it. And so we tend to compare ourselves to those we want to align ourselves with. Well, isn't that convenient? The truth is we can compare ourselves to the herbivorous lion, and that's actually who we resemble physiologically a lot more. Yes, Debbie, I got that. Thank you very much for sending the email about the female gorilla with the amputee, with the amputated foot. Thanks for that. Yeah. So does that make sense? Does that make sense in terms of your question about carnivores versus herbivores and humans and where they fall? I hope that helps. So if you're just joining us, if you double click on your screen, you can send those hearts. Some people have never sent them before, and the hearts are a way for me to know that what I'm saying resonates with you, makes sense for you, and it also is a way to rank. So we want to get this vegan Periscope channel up really high so that these scopes can actually be featured by Periscope. Eating animals isn't the problem. The way our food is produced that is killing the health benefits. I don't agree. Actually, that's not entirely true. Certainly the way we're producing animals is a problem, but the fact that we bring animals into the world only to kill them makes absolutely no sense from a resource perspective, an ethical perspective, and in terms of what we get from animals, there's nothing that we get from animals that we can and shouldn't get from plants. Right now we're going through the animals to get to the nutrients that the animals get because the animals eat plants, or they're giving supplements that are based on minerals and vitamins from plants. So we need to skip the middle animal and go directly to the source.